All right. So thank you for joining our second community collaboration of this school year. Today, it's very special for me anyway, because we have one of our very own John Crosland School teachers, our upper school counselor, joining us today to share some of her insights and have some collaboration towards the end. So I'm actually going to pass it over to Jennifer Bailey and let her get started with her presentation.
Thank you so much, Carrie. We're navigating multiple screens and the potential of people walking in. So thank you for your patience and bearing with us as we look at the screens and try to figure out what's going to be the best experience for you guys. Thank you so much, Carrie, for this opportunity to share with you. I'm not going to tell you too much about myself other than this is my 20th year working in education. My preference is working with the teenagers, and I also am a parent of a teenage son and a sixth grade boy. So I am passionate about the topic I'm going to talk about, but by no means an expert. I hope that you'll find as we sort of talk through this that we share some commonalities and we can learn from each other. And definitely there's a recognition that everyone has a different path and a different experience in their home life. So we can maybe use this to bounce some ideas off of each other towards the end. But let's go ahead and get started. So of course, we're talking about harmonizing evenings, and really another way that we could sort of put that all together in one little bundle is strategies for creating that peaceful night that we all wish we could have with our teenager. So as we start, I wanted to just ask you all to sit for a minute and think through, experience this hypothetical scenario. And I want to ask you if you could relate to this in any way. So after waiting a small eternity in the school pickup line for your teen to finally get in the back seat, you're greeted by this creature who does not even acknowledge you. As they climb in, they turn up the music that's already blasting in their ear pods, and then you begin the daily barrage, all of the questions that we have to get answered, and they respond to us with moans. When you arrive home, here come the expectations of the night. Homework, personal hygiene, chores, the list begins. The evening starts with a battle of words and a battle of wills, and it's like Groundhog Day. Anyone able to relate to that? I definitely have experienced similar challenges. And so when we're talking about this idea of creating environments for peace and finding our peace, whatever that looks like for us and our families, I fully realize that for some, peaceful evenings only exist in spaces where we're exhausted and we've removed any expectations, right? So we just said, we're not going to try to change this. We don't need progress. We're not looking for productivity. The peace comes just because we're exhausted and we decide not to fight a battle tonight, not to spend another night trying to improve our teens and turn them into what we think they need to look like at that moment. Kind of just saying, I'm exhausted and we're not going to fight tonight. And so we get a measure of peace, but it can often lead to this unintended result, which can be guilt as parents. I've certainly been there myself, guilt for not giving my all to that most important job that we have, which is being a parent. And then it snowballs because I chose peace tonight, right? Tomorrow night, I'm going to have twice the challenge. I didn't check up on that kid. So now we've got a backlog of maybe some things that we need to address because of what I didn't accomplish in the previous evening. So that's not an ideal outcome for any of us, but I am thinking I'm probably not alone in some of those scenarios that I put out there for us. It's important for us as we talk about creating peace and harmonizing things in our homes that we realize none of us has the same experience, right? We're all on a different journey. And particularly when we're talking about our neurodivergent teens, the challenges that each of us face are dynamic or they're nuanced. And that experience in itself changes over time through different developmental stages. Some of us might be wishing our students would just stop being so caught up in all of the drama with their friendships. Others might be dreaming of a time that they felt their teenager had just one friend that they were even connecting or communicating with, right? There can be extremes on that end. Personal testimony, I often struggle with feeling that my senses are on overload, that my brain is actually going to explode if there's any more input, right? So maybe that's something that you're challenged with, the constant talking and noises from our teenagers. But on the flip side, it may be our journey looks like this. So we're holding out hope that our teen won't go straight to their room, shut the door, and ignore us. That there will be any positive communication experience with them on that given day. Each teen and each parent is going to have to navigate a different journey. So as we're doing that, we want to talk about that idea of harmony. Fun fact about me, I am a teacher by trade, but a musician by choice, and music has been a huge part of my life. Early on in my educational career, I actually taught high school band and did started a string orchestra. So that's like a past life. So I thought it would be cool to pull in music as sort of a metaphor for this idea of creating peace in our homes. As a musician, this word harmony speaks to me about combining elements together to produce a balanced outcome. Right. So harmony is more than just a person singing or a soloist instrument. It requires that things come together and combine in a pleasing way, right? Something that's going to create happiness from both of the sounds. They correlate together and they make a beautiful combination. And wouldn't that be a great goal for our homes, for us to find some kind of a combination, a collaboration together, if you will, that's got a pleasing outcome. Small shifts that we can make in our approach with our teenagers and really our children too. These are some of my ideas. I'd love to hear some of yours. I would value that as we continue. The first thing that is a shift that I am currently working on in my home is listening first. In the hypothetical example, when we get our teens in the car, I want to immediately say, how was your day? What grade did you get on that chemistry test? Do you have any homework tonight? What do we need to do? Let's start planning what it's going to look like. Can you do any of this in the car? All right, we've walked in the front door. I mean, I can just tend to type A my child to death. But what I need to do is listen first, right? So reintroduce them to the idea of, oh, I'm back in my safe space. I'm with mom or dad or grandma or whomever, and I can just sit and be with them, and that's okay. Now, that's not to say that I'm not going to speak to them at all, but give them a moment to just adapt to this re-entry into the environment, right? The second thing is hosting open conversations on your teen's terms. Friends, this involves sacrifice. So for me, this looks like we did all of the things. We checked all the boxes. We had the dinner. We ran the load of laundry. And now we're exhausted from input all day long. And we just want to watch our show or spend 10 minutes on our phone. And here comes teenager. Now they're finally ready to open up and talk. And you feel like you don't have anything left to give. This has been close to midnight for me occasionally. And I am a go to bed at 9:30 girl. But hosting conversations when your teens are ready, when they're approaching you, that is a huge part of buying into this creating peace. Knowing that you're there to listen to them, of course, within reason, when they're ready for that conversation is a huge part of establishing that peaceful pattern. The third thing is it's good for us to agree upon and establish routines together with our teens. They need to be a part of that conversation. Presenting a teenager with a schedule and saying, this is what you will do or else can work. It doesn't work in every situation, and it's certainly not preferable. You know, science tells us that when individuals are given a choice and they feel, whether it's true or not, they feel a sense of autonomy, and collaboration, and they have a voice, that they're going to buy in, they're going to be motivated, they're going to be more successful at getting on board and achieving shared outcomes, right? So when you're talking with your teens, ask them, hey, what do you think would be a good time for everyone in the house to go tech free? Hey, what are our boundaries that we feel as a family work for us for having conversation time together? What are some shared interests that you think we have as a family or that we might design together where we could have moments of joy and happiness around shared experiences? And then number 4, refuse to begin every conversation with school and homework. I am the worst at this one. I'm checking their grade link is what it's called. I don't know, your students may have Canva, or if they're here, they've got Blackboard. Don't let that be what you're looking at in Carline and jumping on essentially as soon as you see them, right? There are other things in the world, in their world, that are going on. And then fifthly, prioritize gratitude and mindfulness. What can you model in the way of peace? Be the peace for your kids, right? And what can you model in the way of gratitude? So maybe that's the first thing that you say. Hey, enter your world again, whatever that looks like. If that's at the house or you see them at a sports game for the first time, maybe it's, I am so grateful for being able to see you right now. I'm so glad I had the opportunity to come to this game. And then regardless of the stress and the emotions, my teenage son will be 17 in January. He's a junior. He met me with tears yesterday. I was disturbed by that, right? So I'm going to be the peace. I'm not going to ask too many questions, but I'm going to let him talk because he never cries. So what is going on in his life, right? But I think anytime that we can prioritize gratitude around our tables, gratitude in our conversations and our interactions with other members of the family, we're modeling for them that there's safety, there's peace, and we're being intentional about that. So those are just some ideas I had for some small shifts. The other thing I wanted to talk about were key moments in the day where we can be intentional about fostering harmony. So the first one is morning separation. That looks different for every house in America, right? So regardless of when this happens, the moment that you separate shouldn't be, you better go see that teacher today, or you need to take care of that thing, but it needs to be affirming. Have a wonderful day. I know that you're going to be successful today. Talk to someone new today. It needs to be something that's encouraging and affirming, that's moving them closer to stepping into peace for that whole day. As a counselor, I can tell you that when your children leave you or leave your car and they're not at peace, they carry that with them. Those tears, those emotions affect them throughout the day. And I'm guilty of this. I can have a quick hot word for my son as he's heading out, and what have I done to set him up for success or to help him to be peaceful throughout the day? So that's something that I think is really important. Whatever that last moment is with your kid in the morning, make it a positive and peaceful interaction for them. And then first contact. Is that a Star Trek movie? I feel like it's an alien reference. Sometimes when they return to us, our teenagers feel like aliens, but they're not, and they need space to simply be. And I think I mentioned that earlier. So whatever that looks like, the first interaction with them after you get them back from the day of whatever, lets them breathe and re-enter that peace. Meal times are another one. I think the only time that I have all of members of my family in the same room, in the same place, is around the dinner table. We may only be there in our chairs physically eating for 9 minutes, but that is our shared time. So model and frame conversations that can be shared. Now, your teenagers are going to think this is ridiculous and cheesy the first time you do it, but if you keep after it, they'll buy in eventually. So I think that can look like the gratitude thing. Hey, what is something good? Tell me something good. Silence at the table. You go first. Share something good from your day. I was able to help a coworker with a task she was nervous about. She got through it. Boy, that made me feel good about myself. Did you guys, anybody here have something good happen? Or did you have an opportunity to help another human being today make this world a better place? And they might not say anything. But eventually you'll establish a pattern of mom's not just being weird tonight. This is really strange, but this is mom she's putting this out there, or this is dad putting this out there, or mom and dad together are modeling what it looks like to look at the beauty in the world. Our kids are bombarded with wars and with social media, with death, with mental health crisis, with violent video games, with toxic friendships. People are preying on the hearts and minds of our kids. It's serious. And so we've got to establish at some point a contact, and maybe it's not meal times, but there's got to be a contact point where we are able to model for them that peace and to show them the good, to highlight that for them. Chill time, when all the work is done and we're hanging out, can we every once in a while, maybe not every evening, can we agree upon some shared tasks or activities that we can do together? Can you work out with your team? Can you guys jam out to the same music for 5 minutes every night? Can you cook a meal or go to the grocery store and prep some things together? You can throw a lot of suggestions out there and your teenager might not like a single one of them. So just refuse to be offended by that, right? Get their buy-in, give them choice. If they say no, it's okay. That's fine. The last moment that I think is really important that we're trying to be intentional about in my home, especially with my younger child, my 6th grader, is nighttime. I want to set myself up for success and model that I'm going screen-free 30 minutes before I go to bed. I'm prepping my clothes for the next day. I'm communicating love and security, regardless of how old my children get. And even if I go to bed before them, it's so great when I can intentionally tell them, I love you. Good night. I hope you sleep well. I'm here. You're safe. I will see you in the morning. Those kinds of things set our families up for those peaceful mornings, and then it can continue throughout the day. So there are some essential components of trying to create peace in our homes, right? Or for our evenings specifically. And I think one of those that's really important is respecting personal space and privacy. Respect is a two-way street. It's the foundation of any successful and effective enduring relationship. Your students need to have things and rooms that are theirs within reason. Trust until you are given a reason not to trust, right? Involve teens in choices that pertain to them. Ask them what they think the rules in the house need to look like for them. Ask them what they think is a reasonable time to return from an event. Ask them what the expectations should look like for them regarding their homework routines and what they're doing. You're the adult. You are the authority. You have the final say. I am not a passive, permissive parent by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that anytime we can get our kids to collaborate with us on those things, we get some buy-in that can help to create that harmony. So my hot tip for you is choose your battles. That dirty sock on the staircase that has been there for 3 days is not the thing to crush your child's spirit over. It may be the last straw that's about to break our back as the proverbial mom camel, but it is not the thing that we need to go off on, right? So being mindful and keeping our peace is a huge part of it. So just choose those battles. In all of this, hey, let's establish new routines. Let's have shared interests. Let me talk to you in a positive way that you're not used to hearing. This is going to be a tricky thing if we're trying this right for the first time with our teenagers. And so you're still going to have conflict. That is not going to go away because you decided to be intentional about some new things, right? So when it comes to trying to resolve the conflicts that come, because we're humans, right? That's going to happen. It's inevitable. The advice there is just remaining calm and being constructive. If you are able to sit down and establish some boundaries, some rules, and agree upon those with your teenager, congratulations. That's a massive thing. Way to go. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to still have conflict. So the parties need to stick to the term. If your kid has agreed to buy in and do some things for you, but they've asked that you stop screaming and yelling at them, and you're responsible for your end of the bargain, whether or not they keep their end of the bargain. And as a parent, this is a tricky one for sure. Consistency is what's going to breed peace. When they can predict, when we're not a time bomb, when they know what to expect, it helps our children so much. It does take time to establish peaceful patterns. It's something that we're all going to have to work on and grow with and evolve with, just as our teenagers are growing. But we are only responsible for our words and intentions. So I'm often reminded of the Alcoholics Anonymous prayer in my time as a counselor. I'm not an alcoholic, but I did attend many AA meetings as part of my studies. And so we would join together and we would say the prayer, right? Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, cannot fundamentally change who my teenager is as a person, right? The courage to change the things I can. So I am going to put things in motion, right? But the wisdom to know the difference. And that comes back to the spheres of control. What can I do myself to make a difference? And choosing my battles. And then last, that knowledge that we're a safe space for our teens is truly a gift that we can give them. They may have a Christmas list that they're already talking to you about, that they're trying to work towards, this brand new phone or whatever it might be. But more important than any material thing that we give our children is the knowledge that we have unconditional love, that there is a peace in our presence, and that we are a safe space for them. And so if I could leave you with anything today, it would be that we are the peace for our kids. So that's all of the talking and tips that I have for you guys. But I am interested in hearing maybe some strategies, things that you've tried. Maybe they blew up in your face and they didn't really go very well. Maybe someone else has inspired you to try something. Maybe there's something that worked well and you would want to share that with us. Is there anyone that's feeling a little vulnerable and authentic and would want to just maybe share a thought that came to you or something you've tried?
So actually, I think, and I'm sorry
Yeah,
to interrupt. I think at this time, I am going to stop the recording so that kind of increase the feeling comfortable to share. So before I stop the recording, Ms. Bailey, I do want to thank you so much for presenting that and sharing your insight and your personal stories as well. So I am going to stop the recording so that we can share. Maybe.